Hello, welcome to Brown's Irish Market's first virtual whiskey tasting. This is George Vile. I've been doing the whiskey classes at Brown's for many years, and with everything going on at the moment, not being able to get out and have our usual end of the month tastings, we've had a few requests, and so we're happy to oblige. So we don't usually do anything this high tech or this kind of fancy, so not doing it live because I think I dropped too many F-bombs to do it live, so I can do it pre-recorded. So if you want to play along with us, just wind it back to the beginning each time, post your comments, I'll reply to them as we go, and then maybe the next time we do this, we'll do it live. So anyway, I'm going to take my hat off, stay a while, and just get to it. Try and keep this pretty easy. So I put on the teaser video the other day that you're going to need a few things. What were they? You're going to need a glass. So you can do like a traditional Glencairn style. You can do a little open mouth rocks. We're not going to be picky. If you got one of the really cool Tua glasses from Brown's, good for you. You're way ahead of the class, actually. You're winning the class. I said pen and paper to write some notes if you want. And on top of those, then you're going to need some whiskey. So we're going to do some whiskeys here from my little bar. Our bar here is actually called Charlie Garrett's. It's an actual real bar, Charlie Garrett's, see that? Founded 2016. Put us a good Yelp review, we'd appreciate that. Oh, Jesus. And so pen and paper, get your glass, and of course whiskey. And we're going to do certain ones from my bar, but you can play along with any you have. If you have these exact ones, that's great, good job. And we'll just have a bit of fun. Oh, and as well, never drink alone. So I brought two of my friends over here. This lad, very kind of grumpy, and this lad here actually works for him. So, you know, never drink alone. So down in the Charlie Garrett's, about to do it. So first thing we're going to do is the classic, the JMO, the Ship 1780. This is a whiskey we often start our big classes with because it gives everybody a good base point. And a lot of people have been drinking Jameson for years, but they don't actually know what's in it. We often say, oh, what do you like about Jameson? And they'll be like, oh, we shoot it, or I don't know. So what is Jameson? Jameson is definitely the flagship for the Irish whiskey industry. Without Jameson, there is no Irish whiskey industry, because on a bigger class, we can go into the history and fall and all that kind of stuff. But today we'll just do a blurb. So Jameson is a great example of bourbon cask and sherry cask maturation of Irish whiskey coming together with that beautiful pot still Irish whiskey and a bit of grain whiskey. It's light, it's fruity, the sherry gives it a depth that's way beyond its price point. The bourbon gives it all that sweet candy, vanillas and caramels, and it's just gorgeous. Everybody loves it. Even people that don't drink whiskey love Jameson. We often joke around that John Jameson, not an Irish guy, Scottish lad. Sorry, we love our Scots, and you know, the Scots lads who are zooming in here, they're probably like, oh, we invented whiskey. And you know, one thing we always talk about in the class is how the Irish monks and scholars went into, you know, the Middle East, went to the far side of Europe, came back with the knowledge and information of distillation, brought it back to the British Isles. So we don't know exactly what day distillation of whiskey was invented, whether it was a Thursday or Friday, but it was one of those days on the British Isles, maybe 1,000 years ago. And, you know, for argument's sake, let's just say it was in Ireland, not Wales, not Scotland, definitely not England. So yeah, we invented whiskey. Ishkabaha, water of life, Irish for whiskey. So anyway, with Jameson, put a wee bit of that in your glass. And I'm going to use the Glencairns because I get a nice wee bit of sniffing out of there. So when you're doing a whiskey tasting at home, you just want a little in your glass. This is not a drinking. You can get sloshed after the video. So what you're doing is just put a wee bit in there, take a wee look at her. See, this is a nice golden brown, that classic sort of, not quite a straw yellow, it's golden brown, like a bit of molasses was dropped into honey and then dropped into hot water. And whew, if you put your nose straight in your whiskey, you're just going to burn your nose off because that's high alcohol. It's 80 proof, 40 ABV for those at home. So get used to it first. Do a little drive-by. Oh, right away, there's tons of fruit and caramel coming out. And then once you've kind of got yourself warmed up to it, go ahead and say hello. Oh yeah, just right in there. There's a lot of the wood characteristics coming off this. This bottle's been open for a while. Whiskies do change once they're cracked open. You know, they're not going to go bad on you or anything, but after you've opened a bottle of whiskey and it's not good, sometimes it's good to ignore it, put it back on the bar, and a few months later come back to it, take a wee nip, do it again. Eventually it'll change its character. Oh, that's nice. Love the smell of Jameson. So before you go into drinking it, then we do our little blessing part. And you've been to the class, we've done this, kind of fun. So you're going to dip your finger in the whiskey glass, and you're going to put it right there on the meat of your hand. And you're just going to burn off the alcohols, be left with the residuals behind. And you're going to get all these kind of fun little things coming up. Oh, I'm just getting a text in there from Carrie saying don't forget the whiskey tasting. She doesn't know I'm pre-recording it to post it. So anyway, so best, gorgeous smell. So that there, you get a little more of the flavors that are deep inside it, and then you go into the next one, and now you're going to do it into the middle of your palm, and you're going to rub it real vigorously there, and all you're doing is you're capturing just the, getting rid of the alcohols, the pure flavors. Oh, and right in there, that's when I often get a lot of the barrel notes and the deeper spices. You know, I got more like the fruits and the confectionaries there, and then this is the barrel stuff. So that's kind of fun to do. So now you've really got to know it. Now you're going to give yourself a little taste of the whiskey, take it in over the palate, hold it, let it slowly wash around the gums, make it the best mouthwash you've ever had. Slowly drip it down. You can be drinking at home now, then you let it come down, and as it comes down you feel that nice warmth. Shouldn't be a burn because we've taken our time to get used to it. And then big breathe out, and by doing that you get all these secondary olfactory flavors coming out of your whiskey. It's delicious, and that's the kind of stuff that makes you fall in love with whiskey, is all the flavors and all that. Don't be touching your face, go for it. Anyway, so and then, so as you're drinking and enjoying, just examine the whiskey, and you're going to have a lot of flavors and fun things that you can relate to, because we all have different palates, different experiences, foods we grew up eating, confectionery, sweet things, fruits. Like if you've never had a papaya, you're not going to taste papaya in your whiskey. But if you grew up eating fresh gooseberries off your granny's bush, in the bush in the backyard, then you'll probably know what that tastes like. So use the words, use the things that you know. Don't make stuff up. Don't read books ahead of time and cheat. Use your own words. Thank you. So anyway, back to Mr. Jameson himself. So Jameson, being the flagship of Irish whiskey, it's triple distilled. That's a signature of Irish whiskey. It's not a law. It's not a legal definition. Jameson is triple distilled, and what that means is you've made your beer that you're going to make your whiskey out of. You just don't hop it, and we got beer. We got our wort or a wash. We distill it once, then we distill it twice. Now we've got something that we got whiskey. We could cut it, we could proof it, and be very happy with it. But then you can choose to distill it one more time for your third distillation, make it a little smoother. Signature of Irish style is that extra smoothness. Some people say we strip a level of flavor out, but it's the balance of flavor versus smoothness, and that's why we do have double distillation Irish whiskies as well. Some of our favorite scotches are. So triple distilled, and then it's matured, like I said, in bourbon cask and sherry cask, and then those are married together after, you know, Jameson, they don't have an age statement on the bottle, but we often say it's about somewhere between 4 to 7 years, the whiskies, because there is some maturity in there and complexity that at this price point, just without having a little older whiskey, you wouldn't get it in there. Very smooth. Everybody loves Jameson. Got to have it in your back bar. So now for the next whiskey, we're going to do something kind of fun. We're going to stick with the triple distillation, but we're going to go to one of my favorite distilleries. We're going to go to Tullamore Dew. The lads in Tullamore Dew released this one called the Phoenix. This was a cask strength 55 proof. Whew. It was limited release a few years back. People went crazy for it. First few tastings we did it, we said, put a wee bit of water in it. People found they actually liked it at the full 55 ABV, 110 proof, and it's gorgeous. This thing is spicy. It's like taking a big hard piece of raw toffee. Like, it's not very sweet, it's just deep and dense, and then this big spice bomb of heat just comes. And if you can get your hands on it, very hard to find now, it's definitely worth finding. I want to put this out here because it's got a lovely story. So Tullamore they do now have a distillery going again, but for a long time they're buying their whiskey from other folks, and they were buying their single malts from others, and they were putting them together. And when they got the new distillery up and going, they released this Tullamore Dew special edition, the Phoenix, to commemorate the rebirth of the distillery in the little town of Tullamore, County Offaly. But as I read about it and understood it more, the Phoenix that adorns the bottle and is the name of it was already adopted by the town of Tullamore, because back in the day they had a little hot air balloon incident. One of the first ever hot air balloons comes over, crashes, falls onto the house, thatched roof of a house, caused a fire, burns the whole town down. Bloody town was burned down. The guys at the distillery helped rebuild it. They adopted the Phoenix when they rebuilt the town. It's a lovely little story, apart from those that lost their houses. But it is just beautiful. Again, it's a triple distilled style of Irish whiskey. And the boys at Tullamore, they often love to say they're the ones that use all three kinds. So they're using that grain whiskey we talked about that's in the Jameson. It's got the pot still, also like the Jameson, but they also blend in some single malt. And we'll talk a little bit more about single malt and pot still another time. But those are the types of Irish whiskey. Blend them in. It's gorgeous. I didn't actually pour this because this isn't one I'm not going to open. No, thank you. It is gorgeous. It's my only sealed bottle. The other ones got devoured over the years. And so if you do find one out and about, pick it up. Well worth it. So now we're moving Jameson, Tullamore, to the big boys, very famous. Now we're going to move on to something a little less known. And this is the boys from West Cork. I love these guys. They're down in Skibbereen, down in West Cork. Skibbereen's a little fishing town. Having grown up in Killybegs myself, heard about Skibbereen a lot. I've actually never been there myself, but I know I've gutted fish that have been taken up from Skibbereen. And lots of uncles and relatives have all been down to Skib. My Uncle Aidan was always talking about down Skib, Skib this, Skib that. So anyway, boys of West Cork, if you look on the bottle, they've actually got a little boat right there that adorns the bottle, and that's an ode to their careers before they were whiskey distillers and blenders and owners. They were fishermen, so when the white fish industry collapsed, they had to do something else. So with the knowledge and skill sets they had picked up being fishermen, they started their own distillery, made a lot of their own equipment, and got it up and going. And the West Cork, they've got some like a blended, about a 5-year bourbon cask. They've got a 10-year in the range that's available all the time. I hear that's becoming an 8-year soon. But a couple of years ago, they did a special Glengarriff series. In Glengarriff, the bogs out there, so went out to the bog and they harvested bog oak out of the Glengarriff bogs and woods out there. And so bog oak is often harvested and used for making furniture, making artwork. These guys decided, you know what, let's burn some of it. They charred some barrels, they smoked some barrels, they used some of the peat from Glengarriff. They did a peated one and a non-peated. So this one is the bog oak charred. And with the bog oak charred, it's not going to have that big dirty smack of delicious bog peat. It's going to have a much more smooth kind of campfire mesquite kind of flavor going on. And we'll just pour a wee bit in there. And I think these guys do everything wonderful. Oh, it's just a hint of smoke. It's nothing big at all. First time we ever did West Cork at our whiskey tastings, people didn't like it because they were so used to what was being put out from the big distilleries. It was one of the first little new distillery profiles available to us out here in the Midwest. And after 6 months, a year, people got used to the style and actually love it now and come back and get it all the time. Oh, it's just beautiful. There's like a little kind of green pepper underlining in this that you just don't find in a lot of whiskies, and I don't know if it's coming from their grain or if it's something that's coming right out of the bog oak that they're using. I fucking love it. It's delicious. So bottled at 43 ABV, so 86 proof. It's got a wee bit of a kick. This one to me doesn't need water, Put it on a nice big whiskey rock. If you want to dilute it, let it slowly dilute with a big whiskey rock, or just have it neat. It's gorgeous. Really love this whiskey. It's one, retails probably, I would say, you know, around $40. If you can find it, pick it up, grab it. If you can find the sister one, which I have over here, the peated one, go for that too. Really nice. All right, so now we've done those few little Irish. So we're quickly going to jump into a peated whiskey, something from Scotland. You know, runners up in the Whiskey Creation Award category. Not a bad thing to have. And this one's really cool. This is the Talisker Storm. This won a ton of awards a few years ago, and I was at a liquor store over on the Kansas side, and he had a big display of these that he was selling after the holidays when all the big sales were done, so I got 50% off. And I've never cracked the seal on this one, because the one that we did crack went from here to here to here to here very quickly. It was a beautiful whiskey. I often say, you know, a good peated whiskey's gonna be kind of mean and vigorous and full of salt and brininess, and I quoted once or twice that if you're having a bad day and you want to make it worse, have some peated Scotch whiskey. And it's good. This is my cigar whiskey. I love when it's cold outside, like today's freezing in Kansas City, that wind going, go outside, cigar, lovely flavors. This one's double distilled. It's made on the Isle of Skye. I think it's the only or the oldest functioning distillery on the Isle of Skye, and be in the storm because it's just that island's exposed to the Atlantic Ocean. It just gets battered all the time. So when you make whiskey there, it sucks it out of the air, sucks the saltiness and the brininess. So by the time it's made, you get all that beautiful flavor from the ocean. You get all the beautiful smoke and peat from the bog. And by being double distilled, just enough to shave off the edges, but then leave a lot of big flavor with this. For those that are not really into peated whiskies, try this neat first and then give it a wee bit of water. Tame it down, and then after you've had it a few times, reduce the amount of water you've had, and eventually you're going to want it neat and with a cigar outside. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And this one bottled at just over 90 proof, 45.8 ABV, and it really is a gorgeous whiskey. So that was Talisker the Storm. All right, well, we're going to finish with something Irish, and wouldn't be a proper tasting today without doing something from Redbreast. This is the Redbreast Listowel cask. This is the pot still line of whiskies made at the Middleton Distillery by Jameson. So you've heard me talk about pot still. Pot still is a physical piece of equipment. Think of a moonshiner, the still, that's a pot still. We make whiskey, single malts and pot still whiskeys on a pot still. Pot still is also a type of whiskey. We get into that much more in our big class. And so pot still is when we are talking about the grains, and it's going to be malted barley and unmalted barley. So an almost perfect 50-50 ratio that can vary a little. You still get a good germination. You get a beautiful whiskey at the end that has a creaminess and a spiciness that just isn't there in a full single malt or in a full grain whiskey that you know, would have some of the characteristics of that spice and pepper. Pot still was accidental. Irish distillers created it when they were taxed on their malted barley coming in. So to reduce the taxes they were being charged, they came up with pot still, and the accent itself made a great whiskey and became the signature style. So Redbreast, most people know the 12-year sherry cask, beautiful, I love it. We go through a lot of it at Brown's. It's a really good one, but this was the Listowel edition where it was all finished in Listowel exclusively sherry cask. So in the original maturation, there is a little bourbon maturation and regular sherry in here, but then when the thing was about 9 to 13-year-old whiskeys who were married together, they finished it for about 6 to 9 months in Listowel sherry cask. And Listowel's like, you know, the Dom Perignon of sherry. You know, these guys really know what they're doing. This thing is full of almonds and hazelnuts. That sherry cask, when it's blended like in a baby Jameson over there, you often get just this rich little fruitiness out of it. But as you get a deeper, darker expression, you pick up on the nuttiness. It's almost like somebody made a beautiful cocktail using Listowel sherry, bar side, and it's just absolutely heaven. I love this one. If you can find that, definitely pick it up. So anyway, oh, I need to take a wee sip of water. That's my other friend. So anyway, that was kind of our little whiskey show and tell. Next time we'll do it live. We'll do a bigger selection. Maybe we'll let you know ahead of time what whiskeys we're going to do so you can play along at home. But this way it's pre-recorded. You can pause this. You can run back to your bar. Go grab something that's similar. Bottle of Jameson, bottle of Tullamore, bottle of Scotch, Talisker is what we had, and then do a pot still. If you had like even like a yellow spot or a green spot or something fun like that, it would be good. Or even the Redbreast 15. Hope I'm not making everybody jealous just by showing these, but these are, oh, there's the Sexton. That's a wee baby. So lots of fun things you can do at home. There's no right, there's no wrong. This was kind of rushed, and you know, cheers. Have a good night. Stay safe. Ask questions in the comments below. I will answer as many as I can, and it's been great having you. So cheers, sláinte. Oh, go Royals.